Hey everybody, how you doing today? It's David and Olivia here from IMPR Agency, and right now we are going to be talking about Google Analytics. That's what we're talking about today. So make sure you answer the poll so that we can make sure that we touch on everything. Today we're only doing a half hour, so this is going to be quick. Any questions you have, please make sure to ask them in the chat. So let's get started. So Google Analytics, here's the whole purpose of it. The whole point of Google Analytics is so that you can create metrics, you can create and track key performance indicators or KPIs on your website in real time. So let's log in and let's see what we got going on here. All right. So right now, very quick orientation. This is the date range of time. So we're going to do last 30 days just to make sure we got the last 30 days of data locked in. This is our property, IMPR agency. This is the amount of sessions. A session is how many times people log onto your website, average session duration or time on site, bounce rate, and goal conversion rate. We have not set up any goals or conversion rates yet, but we're tracking that separately using a different app. Moving forward, we're first going to talk about how to implement Google Analytics into your website. So before we even go into Google Analytics, let's talk about how to implement it. So what you want to do is you want to log in to your Google Analytics account, and you're going to use your primary Google account. And what you need to do is you need to get a code onto your website. So here's what you do. You will go to account settings and let's see. And long story short, when you sign up for Google Analytics, they're going to give you a number or a code of some sort. Now, what you want to do is if you're using a WordPress plugin, which I would advise, this is the easiest way to go about adding your Google Analytics code to your website. So the easiest way to add it would be to install, let's see. All right. Well, there's a plugin that you can install that allows you to add the Google Analytics number to your website. While I figure out what happened to it on our site, let me see. Well, you also want to add Webmaster Tools here as well. They give you a meta code that you can add for Google Search Console and some other things. But long story short, if you do a search in the plugins folder right here, and you do Google Analytics, it'll pull up, basically, it'll pull up right here. Enables Google Analytics on all pages. You could put the number that they give you when you sign up for your account onto your website, and that's the easiest way to go about it. And then there's many other plugins that you can use, but we use a different type of dashboard to track and measure everything all in one. But if you want to use your website as that dashboard, WordPress is very versatile for that. So once you've created your account and you put your Google Analytics number into the plugin, the next thing that you're going to want to look at, and I'll show you where that number is right here. Okay, so this is the Google Analytics number that I'm talking about right here. Okay, when you sign up for your account and after you verify that you own the website, it will give you this number via email, but it'll also be here. This is the number that you need to put into the plugin to make sure that Google Analytics is properly tracking your website. So then you click in and it'll give you the audience overview, last 30-day view, where basically you can see your stats and your metrics. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is how to understand and use the data. Well, first we're going to talk about all the different types of data, and then we're going to go into how to actually use it. So the first thing that you want to look at is sessions versus users. So the number of sessions is how many times people have logged onto your website. So even if a user comes back visits your site one day and then leaves and it comes back the next day, that counts as 2 separate sessions, unless you have a specific user ID set up for that specific IP address. But that's a different conversation for a different day. But there's a way that you can track sessions by user so that it doesn't show multiple sessions per user, and you can get a more accurate reading, but that's a totally another thing. So the amount of users versus the amount of sessions, you kind of want to make sure these numbers are close because, like I said, you want accurate measurements. Page views is how many pages the users have viewed. So users is a unique number. That means that in the last 30 days, about 3,500 people has visited the new IMPR site. And just to let you guys know, that's no advertising. That's all SEO and organic traffic mostly. And we'll get into that later. But the page views is, a representation of how many pages per session. So the average user does 2.37 pages per session, and the average user stays on the site 4 minutes and 12 seconds. So page views versus users, if that number is like double, triple, quadruple, that basically, will relate to this number. The more pages per session a user is viewing, the more likely they are to purchase a product or service or to engage your site or return return to your site. As far as the time on site is very important because this is a measure of engagement. So if you, hey Randall, how are you? If you use time on site as a metric, and if you were to go on Alexa and check out the time on site of some of the biggest and best websites in the world, like Google, Facebook, their average time on site would be about 20 minutes. That means that, if you take the average of all users, they spend an average of about 20 minutes. Well, we all know that that's not really true. We know that in order to get 20 minutes average time on site, some people have to be bouncing. Majority of people have to be bouncing. The median people are on there for about 20, 30 minutes at a time. And then you have another end of the extreme of people who are on there for an hour or longer or so. So in order to get a 4-minute time on site, we've been monitoring this through a live feed of our website where we can measure traffic, real-time traffic, and real-time time on site, which I'll show you guys how to do that. And we noticed that, there are some users that might stay on the site for about an hour, 45 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and a lot of other users that'll just bounce off. So the longer we can keep those interested users engaged on our site, that will increase the average of session duration. Now, as far as the bounce rate, 72.97, so 73% is actually, pretty regular for the internet. Most sites, some of the biggest sites in the world, actually, like billboard.com, I remember we looked it up about a month ago, and they had about an 85% bounce rate. So once you get above 75%, you start entering kind of like a red territory. A lot of sites, they can operate like that because they're getting millions and millions of traffic of people flowing in and out of the site. We're looking for millions and millions of people to flow out of our site. We want more engaged traffic, more press and artists and things like that visiting our site. So we want that bounce rate to be low. So you'll also see the same thing. This bounce rate is an average of all the different bounce rates per day. So some days, some pieces of content, different pieces of content will have different bounce rates. Different types of traffic will have different types of bounce rates. We'll get into that later. But long story short, keep your bounce rate below 75%. That's a very good number to have. If you can get it down to 50%, that's even better. If you can get it down to 0, I've never seen a website with a 0% bounce rate. That means no one ever bounces ever. People are just on there all the time. So that gives you, some context. As far as new sessions, 75% new sessions, 25.3% returning visitors. I touched a little bit on this last time. As far as the returning visitor, you definitely want to keep a healthy returning visitor percentage. Our goal for IMPR is to get our returning and new visitor to equal at 50-50%. That way we have a strong base of returning users, and we're also matching that with new users and trying to convert them into returning users. So that's our current goal right now. Also on the home view, you will have the languages of the people who are visiting your website broken down by the number of sessions and the percentage of sessions. And it also goes even further to break down the country, the city, top cities, the browser, the operating system, service provider. So about 4.9% of our viewers are on Time Warner Cable. About 4% of our viewers are on Verizon, so things like that. It also does the same thing for mobile. iOS and Android are 50-50, and then BlackBerry, Windows Phone, Samsung are, trailing, and so on and so forth for mobile as well, and screen resolution size. Now what we're going to move on to is intelligence events. So intelligence events is basically, someone's calling me. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to tell that guy to hold on a second. So intelligence events are basically automatic alerts that let you know about a KPI being triggered or a specific metric being tripped in the middle of the day, so that you can act on that data. So maybe you might want to set that for like a spike or something. So for example, percentage of new sources, there was a 12% change, and that change happened between May 31st and June 6th. And, then you can go and click on the details, and it'll actually tell you the source was direct traffic, direct to the site. And we had 661 sessions in this date range, which is about less than 50% of the total sessions in that date range. And Google expected us to have a new session amount of 55 to 68%. So we beat that. We beat their expectation by 12 percentage points. So, that kind of lets you know where Google sees you at, and then where you can, where you can improve and where you're going down. So like in this time period over this week of May 31st to June 6th, our time on site went down. Average session duration went down. Google expected us to be at 1 minute and 30 seconds to 3 minutes, and we only hit it at 1 minute. So that lets you know during that week that either your content wasn't engaging, or you might not have posted enough, or, we can go back to that date range and we can figure out why the time on site was so low. Maybe we didn't have enough users during that week. Who knows? So intelligence events are key, because, you want to definitely look into that and see where it's going to go. And then it kind of goes further into daily events, where you can now see like a daily chart of, alerts getting hit, AdWords alerts. You could set up your own custom alerts, and then you have the automatic web alerts that Google already, gives to you. And then you can give each alert a level of importance, and so on and so forth. And then you got weekly and monthly events, which are just a breakdown of the daily, weekly, monthly events in the same form. So the next thing you want to do is you're going to look into what you want to really look into. And one thing that I want to really touch on, since we have about 15 minutes left, I want to speak on behavior flow. And I want to speak on the behavior of your users throughout your website. So what we're going to do is we're going to add all the steps until we get to the ending of the flow. And this is on over 30 days. So this goes to 12 interactions. So this is showing how just this little bit of traffic of, 3,000 unique viewers can flow and then have over 12 interactions. So long story short, we did a test. Now I'll show you guys how to test your advertisements and test your platforms. So, this behavior flow is probably the best piece of information that Google Analytics will give, simply because it shows you very clearly where the traffic is coming from and where it's going to your site, and how effective a particular page is at either retaining or flowing through traffic. So with that being said, we tested a Facebook splash page for an advertisement for the summer sale to try to see if a splash page could convert better than an entire website. So it's basically a low budget advertising test to see if we could just make sales directly on that splash page. So in a week or so, we had about 1,000 hits on that page. And that page, you know, this is the traffic coming to it. And then this is the actual page. So that page had almost a 99% drop off, simply because if people weren't interested in buying, they weren't able, or they didn't feel like they could flow through the rest of the site. So a lot of them dropped off. Only a very small amount were going to individual pages and then would flow through the rest of the site. So for example, you could follow that flow from clients to, you know, clients again, and then that would be the end of that flow. Or they would flow to a blog post, back to the home page, to the clients or press page, through the clients, back to the home page, through another blog post, back to the home page, and so on and so forth. You can follow that flow all the way through. So we determined, based on this data, I think we spent about, how much do you say we spent on that ad, Olivia? Maybe like $500, you know, something very cheap. It was a test, and we were very quickly able to see if that money was well spent or not, if that was a good investment. So as soon as we saw, after a good week of advertising, because you got to give it enough time to collect enough data to make a better analysis. And once we decided that that was not a good investment, we basically cut that page short and killed it and took it off and rerouted the funds somewhere else. Now, if you take, you know, something like this, and this is more organic direct traffic, about the same amount of hits, about 1,000, you know, flows through here. The homepage, if you just have direct traffic flowing straight to the homepage, and because our homepage is all nice and dynamic, that has a 60% drop off as opposed to a 99% drop off. So that means that more of the traffic flows through the website. So that let us know that if we were to set up our SEO better and more correctly, we would have more qualified traffic and more qualified leads flowing onto the homepage and then flowing throughout the rest of the website. So then you can see that they then flow to the clients, which then flows, they flow to the 4 pages we talked about last week: clients, press, the portfolio page is the press page, the shop page, the about us, or various blog posts and press releases. So with that being said, you can now see the individual conversion rate of each of the pages, because now we know the clients page consistently has a 30% drop off, because you can see that across, you know, all of the client pages, like, you know, 30 here, 35 there. You know, it has a very low bounce rate once people are on the client page, or once people go on the press page. You know, there's a lot of through traffic there. When people go to the shop page, it has an even lower, you know, drop off from the shop, and from the about us as about a 45% drop off. So as you can see, with each interaction, the bounce rate actually decreases and the through traffic rate actually increases. So now that we know that, and we can see that organic traffic goes through many, as you can see, it just goes through many interactions all the way to the end, all the way until they get to, you know, the final blog post or something, or they're done browsing, and then they drop off the site. So
David, I think it's also important to mention that this is a new website. We pretty much started this website a couple weeks back. We've had our old website for many years, and the feedback that I've gotten from a lot of people was that at first, if they visited the website, they thought that they had went on the wrong website, because whatever information they were seeking at that time was no longer available. So a lot of people are still getting used to this new interface, and also just kind of getting to know the different sections of our website. So I think that as we go on and we do a better job at really introducing this new platform and this new website and different sections, that's going to definitely increase the numbers and the overall user interface overall.
Yep. So moving forward, when we have direct traffic coming directly to the shop, that's clearly returning visitors, or that could be people finding our products from the Google SEO. They flow, usually we've noticed this in real time as well, where they actually flow through blog posts first and then flow through clients and then go back to the shop, you know? So, you know, it's kind of like once you understand that loop and once you understand the flow, you can now set up your website. So right now we have a plan where we're going to set up on the IMPR website, on the blog post, we're going to set up a sidebar that's more of a product sidebar. So as they're browsing the blog, the products are constantly and consistently being showcased to the users browsing the website.
IMPR Agency LLC is a vital resource for artists of all genres,
I don't know if
labels
anyone's
and
seen
brands
that yet,
globally
but go to the
who
homepage
need a
and you can see
solution
the
to
new video.
secure the most amount of impressions on all media platforms.
Anyway, long story short, the blog was taking a while to load, but all you need to do is once you understand this flow, then you can see that, you know, they go from the shop back to a blog post, back to the shop, through the clients, back to the shop, you know, and then they start looking at individual packages, and, you know, you could just study this flow all day. So now that we talked about behavior flow, now we're going to talk about how to implement it. And remember, guys, if you have any questions, please throw it in the chat. Let's see. And then actually, let's talk about how to use it. So what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about how it even goes even further and breaks down the top pages with the most amount of traffic, with all the individual statistics of each page. So for example, we see the splash page got a lot of hits. It got 11.12% of the traffic in this, of all this traffic that we're measuring. And it had the most amount of page views. It had a high time on site, but it had a very high bounce rate. There was no, you know, there was no value being created there. So moving on from that, the next highest page is the shop page, which had a shorter time on site, 100 interests directly to it, but a lower bounce rate, which means people continue to flow through the website, which is something that we know creates more sales. And you can see that with every page of your site, or all the top pages of your site. And then, you know, it does the same thing for content, landing pages, exit pages. It also, Google Analytics also analyzes your page speed. It also analyzes the search terms that are being used to find you. It also manages events, but events you would have to set up. So events is something else that we will have to talk about another time, because that would get pretty interesting. So let's talk about how to use this data, because this is a very basic, very basic Google Analytics tutorial, because we're short on time, and I don't want to overload people. But now let's talk about how we're going to use these numbers and this flow to enhance the website. So long story short, what you want to focus on is you want to focus on where most of the traffic is flowing and where you're getting the least amount of drop off. So this red line here shows you the drop off, and it's kind of measured against the page to kind of visually show you how severe the drop off is. So one thing that we knew is that we now understand that our home page is the highest converting page on our website. So now that we know that, and we've tested this with very small numbers, now what we're going to do is we're going to set up the whole entire website. We're going to SEO the entire website so that it constantly drives that search traffic and that direct traffic directly to the homepage. And then from there, the homepage, then, you know, they can start exploring the whole experience of IMPR. So once you understand that, then you start to understand that then you can see where it flows to after, you know, after you have a nice little outlet here. Because as you can see, it visually shows you some people drop off, but a good amount of people come through, and the line strength shows you, you know, the strength of the flow. So once you see that what your top pages are, then all you need to do is make those pages load faster, make those pages more engaging visually, and make those pages more dynamic and publish more content, because search traffic and direct traffic flows more to websites that are constantly and consistently updated. Me, myself, I will never stay on the site that long if I look at a blog post and I see it's from 2 months ago. You know, if the site is constantly updated and there's a lot of new content today, you're more likely to retain a user longer on your website than you would, you know, someone else. So I want you guys to answer the poll if possible, because we have a few minutes, and I want to know if there are any particular topics that you guys want us to focus on. All right, so one last thing before we finish up. Make sure that everything that you do on your website, you make sure that your website is loading fast, moving fast, and we have someone on the chat. Referral spam messing up analytics. Okay, how do I add it to my site? Okay, so as far as referral spam messing up analytics, Randall, what do you mean by referral spam? I've been hit with a ton from Russia. Okay, referral spam. So what you want to do as far as referral spam, well, what exact, do you know the site that it's actually coming from? And as far as referral spam, what you could do is using Google Analytics, you could identify the IP address and you could actually filter that data out of your analytics. So for example, there's an app called, oh, they constantly change their IP address. Okay. So what you will want to do, oh, you're talking about the URL. Okay. But they can't change their IP address on the, you know, fake web hits. Okay. So you want to use an app called Zop'em. It's free. It's the chat function that's on our site currently. And what it enables you to do is it enables you to see the IP addresses of every single visitor that's coming to your website. And it also allows you to see what pages they're viewing and if they're actually viewing pages or not. So as far as referral spam is concerned, I would say capture those IP addresses of, and you never know, you could just be very popular in Russia for all you know, but make sure that you catch those IP addresses and you plug them into Google Analytics, and I'll show you guys how to do that next week as to how to do user IDs, and then you filter out that traffic, okay? That way it doesn't show up in your analytics and you're getting accurate numbers. Are there any other questions? As far as how do I add it to my site, I touched on that earlier in the video. So you can watch the recording and you know, you'll see in the beginning how to go about adding Google Analytics to your website. Are there any other questions before we log off here today? By the way, here's Olivia. Say hi, Olivia.
Hey.
Hey, everybody. Check it out. I don't know if any of you guys knew this. We got the IMPR tattoo. Hey. What's the app? The app is called Zop'em. Called Zop'em, and let me get you guys the link to get IP addresses. Zop'em. Oh my goodness. All right, here's the app right here. I'm putting the link in there. use the free option. So you can monitor IP addresses and current visitor paths on your website in real time. Alrighty, and I want to show you guys one other thing very, very, very quickly. And this will be something that we will touch on next week as well. And this is data dashboards. So we haven't entered in the financial data yet, but this is the current website data, and this is where I was saying we manage the majority of our other data from. And what we do is we have many dashboards. So we have an Instagram dashboard, for example. As far as Instagram is concerned, we can track the posts. This is the dates, and these are the likes by the post. So now we can match up like how well our post did, and we can start posting the same type of posts. We have the Twitter dashboard. I don't think the Facebook dashboard is working right now, but we monitor our mentions, we monitor everything all in one place. We have goals set up, and follower count and the goal. The current goal is 7,000. We're about 70% there. Listed count. This is how many lists we are currently a part of. Tweet count. We consider this a measure of productivity. Let's check out the Facebook dashboard. Facebook dashboard is still not working, right, Olivia? Okay. So and then we got the MailChimp dashboard where we can see the percentages of our lists and the clean and the rates and everything like that. And then we have a client dashboard. The Facebook dashboard, we believe the widget has stopped working, so we have to reconnect it back together. But long story short, that's all there is for that. And let me see. And if you guys have any other questions, please either send us an email or put it in the chat, or shoot us a chat on the website. One of us is always on the chat on the website. So, or like we said, send us an email or call Jen, your account manager, and we'll be happy to answer any other questions you guys may have. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.